A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Ozama, broadcasting live from Lagos, the nation's commercial news center. I almost stumbled on that one, guys. My people. I'm trying not to say goons, because they say they don't belong to the street. It's okay. It's fine. Dear. Guys.
What a beautiful way to start. And it pretty much, reinforces my first thoughts of the day as usual. They are the lights, that spark up my own day. And just as we are the light, and we intend to spark up your day. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka, blessed always among Jeffrey. Coyote.
It's really touching. We are the lights that spark. But thankfully, we're not NEPA, the old NEPA. We don't go off. Are we Band-Aid lights to you?
Band-Aid?
We're Band-Aid.
Oh, better than Band-Aid.
We're better than Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, we're Jenkos.
Because Band-Aid can go off.
But we shouldn't go off, right?
You will never go off.
Guess what? You are like the star.
Ha!
Since we're going all poetic this morning, you're welcome to the show. I'm Coyote Okikun, and it's great to have Bukola back with our usual daily doses of inspiration.
You didn't have to put me on the spot again.
I just wanted to say it's good to have that back, because you had it yesterday, the day before. So I'm happy that you're back.
You're keeping track, right?
Exactly, I am. How are you guys doing? What are you tracking?
Well, for me, a lot, but I was focused partly on what's going on in the Middle East. Trump is in Saudi Arabia and Riyadh, and he made some very, people have been talking about some of the things he said, but for me, a couple of things. He talked about Iran, that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. He talks about lifting sanctions from Syria. He talks about Iran even, having opportunity, so let's negotiate at the end of the day. He talked about Gaza, a plethora of issues. He talked about Lebanon. He talked about Hamas, Hezbollah. He also talked about the MBS himself, Mohammed bin Salman, being a reformer in that sense. And, Trump is a deal maker. He got a commitment of about $600 billion deal. He came with the likes of Elon Musk and all of the big businessmen across America. And he was telling MBS to the effect that, look, this is modern miracle, the Arab way. That statement caught me, in a sense, because he can't be discussing democracy in Saudi Arabia. But of course, it reminded me of him not even mentioning anything that had to do with Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist that was literally murdered in Istanbul, and that embassy that day, and melted with acid, and fingers were pointed at MBS, and certain persons were arrested. It just speaks so the man just went there, less of diplomacy, more of making deals, and it just tells you how leaders and leadership assess things and look at things, because the human rights community, they are not really happy that all of this camaraderie between him and MBS is not really a thing. But well, he has chosen his paths, and Americans will decide for themselves. But another thing you have to look at is the fact that they have a lot of leverage. It comes with, look, we have this on the table, so you bring that on the table. So it's not begging you, you're not begging him. What can we do together in that sense? Africa should learn. I constantly say that Africa is not on any table. Rather than us wrangling about all of this apocalypse we deal with every day, let's find ourselves on the table, guys.
Absolutely, and there's a lot to take from this. Different angles. You can see the deals, the arms deal, what is the need for Syria, what this means for Iran and the rest. Really, you can sit down wherever you are in the world and pick something that affects you. But globally speaking, particularly when Trump said, in essence, that we respect and recognize that you guys were able to build infrastructure, were able to build this kind of civilization yourself, your own way, without our help in that sense. Well, a lot of people thought, oh, finally, America is stepping back from that savior of the world, all of the biggest brother, Uncle Sam kind of role, and they're saying, is this a new world order? Well, whatever the case is, know that at the heart of this is first interests, right? Every nation goes out there for their interests. And when the interests align, absolutely, America is going to get a plane, right? A $400 million luxury plane. President Trump is going to accept it, and then eventually he would let it be for the Trump library, blah, blah, blah. But the point I'm trying to make here is, as much as this is pleasing to hear, New World Order, de-dollarization, the point is, the new world order still means that there is a world order. And it is those big players that will still remain the big players. Trump is a businessman at the end of the day. He's there for profit. So do not get carried away. Do not think this new world order automatically welcomes you or makes you fit in. No, it's still business as usual in a different light entirely. That's just my own takeaway from this, guys. Bukola, you're wearing blue. I don't know if this is to align with America.
Not necessarily. Blue is not the only color that, America stands for. There's white there, there's red there as well. But there's a lot to learn from the unusual political brinksmanship, from U.S. President Donald Trump. Either it's his, adornment or the AI version of him wearing the regalia of the Pope, or what he says about stocks. Some would say as long as U.S. President or America sneezes, the whole world catches cold. And, whether it's this as well, this unusual visit to Saudi Arabia, there's a lot to learn. And perhaps it's because America is many years ahead of the rest of the world, particularly Africa, in the development of its democracy. And that's why my reflections pretty much bring us back home to the House of Representatives specifically, where the bill for rotational presidency and perhaps I think 6 or 7 others failed at the House of Representatives yesterday. And it was interesting to hear some of the points put forward by members on the floor yesterday, one of which is, if this sails through, then who's going to represent a particular region if it's the turn of that region? For instance, the Southwest, would it be the Ekiti, the Ijebu, the Egba? And that's a very strong point. But then again, the template that we have today doesn't work. And so in a couple of months from now, the 2027 general elections, the debate will begin yet again. Okay, perhaps a lot of people are queuing up behind the president for their own goodwill or for their stomach in order to have the APC government re-elected again. We hear that narrative that, the president Tinubu must, complete another 4 years. We always hear that. But the point is that the template that we have now is imperfect, and the debate will, reoccur every 8 years about whose turn it is, which region or which ethnic group's turn it is, to take up the presidency. Recall also, we'll never forget that the big question about the Nigerian civil war is yet to be, addressed. And then, the people of the Southeast will return again with the argument, that marginalization and the injustice done to them has not been addressed. So beyond the bill being dead on arrival, there must be another, workable template to address the question of representation for Nigerians, for all ethnic groups, such that, the politicians do not use that as a weapon every 4 years or 8 years on the people, to bring about, to cause division, divisiveness during electioneering campaigns. So those are the issues. If we must move past this and, of course, have a sit at the table where every part of the country is represented. Guys.
All right, guys. So where do we go from here? Let's get to see what the dailies are saying as far as the headlines on the papers are saying at the moment. Okay, let's get started with the Vanguard newspapers. How lives get wasted daily on Nigeria's highways of horror. So they gave a few data here, saying horrible federal roads in Cross River. I can attest to that. I lived in that city in Cross River for about 5 years. Itu Calabar Highway is a death trap. It's a big death trap. And then the Oron Calabar Waterway is another danger zone. Still have persons there kidnapped. Those guys kidnapped since Good Friday. So whether you're using the waterway, you are prone to pirates picking you up. You're using the roads, you can stay there for 9 hours. As at 12, almost 12, 15 years ago or even more when I used that road. I've been there 9 hours, and this is 2025. I'm talking about 2007, 8. 9 hours on the road, and because of the state of that road. So I totally understand this one. Horrible federal roads in Cross River. The other one said, these are the bylines. Over 150 people burned to death, 100 vehicles wrecked in rivers, North highways of frequent disasters, death, lamentation in southwest, federal roads of frequent auto crashes in southeast. FG doing its best to fix road infrastructure, Omai. So I know they are trying to do the, what do you call it now? Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road.
Yeah.
I think there's another big one, Badagry Road, another one in the north as well. I can't remember all the details. But as much as that is done, a lot of our roads are in bad shape. And I know they are putting together what the president or this presidency has achieved. And we're going to put some of these things to them. Do you know, it was yesterday I realized that we have a Minister of State for Works. I forgot. Do you know are you aware of that we have a Minister of State for Works?
Well, the fact that you have a large minister usually overshadows.
Remember, we have one of the largest cabinets so far. So.
No, for some reason, there are ministers we don't even hear about. I think Minister of State for Police, Minister of State for the FCT, Minister of State for Works. I'm sure if I do a poll and say, Nigerians, how many of you know there's a Minister of State for Works? A lot don't know. So if this office is not that important, why did they create it? Anyway, guys, you have the next paper.
Well, let's go to this Nigerian newspaper this morning, and it's looking at security. Boko Haram flush out terrorists, Senate tells military. There are a few riders, 2 riders to be specific, direct troops deployment to Borno, Yobe. Security experts urge FG to recalibrate security infrastructure. And again, it emerged, even on the floor of the Senate yesterday, the information that insurgents are using drones to attack communities. We're calling out the Minister of Defense again against the information put out during that ministerial press briefing that it's not true that the insurgents have more sophisticated weapons. This is another bit of information that is contrary to what you have. So, Minister of Defense, our armed forces need to be better equipped. We're saying it time and again. They need to be better equipped to be able to counter the firepower of the insurgents. In Borno on Monday, there was a pre-dawn attack in Marte local government during which soldiers were killed. And in fact, the report is to the effect that some soldiers were kidnapped and the rest had to flee, to another army division for cover. So our men need to be equipped in order for us to be able to fight this cancerous security threat effectively. So that's it from this Nigeria.
The Guardian follows up with that. This National Security Summit is a big story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper today. And you see stakeholders reject plan, flays stalled proposals, high military casualties. Yes, it is one death too many on the part of Nigerian security and military apparatus. So, where do we go from here? Do we have this meeting or not? Do we implement previous proposals? The point is we need solutions. We need solutions, and we've been needing solutions now for a decade plus, some would say. So what exactly is going on? What are we not doing right? Well, inside pages of the Guardian newspaper might give you insight, at least, into what people are saying about this proposed National Security Summit. Now, you can see the President, the Senate President, the NSA, the Chief of Defense Staff, even the IGP of Police is on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's get to the Blueprint newspaper as quickly as we can. But on the front page of the Blueprint, we saw that there was an autobiography by Sule Lamido, who is the former governor of Jigawa State, begging the president to settle a debt of 45 billion ITT contract owed to Abiola. And there were remarks as well as leaders we have responsibility to fix Nigeria, coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, ex-Jigawa governor, a pillar of Nigeria's nation's democracy, coming from the president. I think he was represented by the Minister of Information. But down beneath that picture, you see earlier 2 other Kebbi senators joining APC. inches, as APC inches closer, party inches closer towards two-thirds majority. As we speak, guys, the APC is 68. So they are just like 5 senators away from having two-thirds majority. What that simply means in a democracy is that they can get away with a lot of things just by aligning across, just having that party line, you know. If all APC senators, even to amend a constitution in that sense, if that is two-thirds majority that is required. So I was asking yesterday, is that good for democracy? Anyway, so that's the much you can take. You can get into the inside pages of the dailies to find out exactly what the details are.
And just in case people are wondering what the ITT is with Abiola and all of that.
Oh, I forgot to explain.
Just to put it out there, the ITT is International Telephone and Telegraph Corporation. It's an American company. It's just what it is. But you know what?
Before we got
just to give you a context of what that is about, perhaps in the coming days we'll explore. You know, there's some old stories that are actually gold, but that's it, really.
The nine tails of this world that time. You know, when Nigeria had less than how many thousand lines? The whole country has 70,000 lines. So you bought your units.
A big man, man.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment.
Well, you're welcome back. So let's get right into some of the other trending issues. There's the front pages of the dailies. There's also the front pages of the social media pages.
I like that part.
And it's what it is, really. So let's get right into some of the stories that are trending. Now, we're going to start off with the appearance of suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah in court yesterday. Of course, that challenge of her suspension is still on. Now, another sub-case, I should say, has been added. That's concerning the social media posts she put up, which Senate President's legal team deem as, well, violating the court's gag order. Again, her representation has said, well, it's not quite the same thing, right? Her own post was about the allegations of sexual harassment, while this case is on the suspension. Legal fireworks here and there, but we understand that the court has now fixed July now? June rather.
June 27,
June
I
27.
believe. Yeah.
Thank you guys for the judgment on this matter. So we just have to wait. I don't want to say with bated breath because there are other issues on the front burner as well. But that's Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah making an entrance to the court yesterday.
You know, in respect to the post that she put out, that will be the satirical apology letter. Recall somewhere down the line, before that time, the court had restricted both parties from speaking about the particular case or anything that had to do with the case, you know, and that seemed to be a violation of what the court had ordered. So how would it would impact on the case in the coming days and weeks before June 27? It is yet to be determined. But what are you saying? Olu Banks is the first user who says, is she not supposed to be in court to provide evidence of sexual harassment? Well, that's why we're watching and seeing how this case unfolds. Jeffrey, you have the next one.
Okay, let's go to that video of the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, the JAM boss, as well as his team watching the 2025 UTME real time at the JAM headquarters. So that's the professor and the doctor himself, Tunji Alausa, watching real time all of the exercises that are going on. So this is looking over your head literally as you ride JAM. So if you're cheating, they will just zoom in on you. This is caught real time, if you will. But we're happy with the improvement, but there's the question about addressing that glitch or no glitch in on their back end is very important. I think I read a story where we're chatting on the platform yesterday about a young person who committed suicide, right? Because of a JAM score. So they have to do something as quickly as possible. We're happy with the improvement, but if there are glitches, please let them be humble enough to acknowledge it and rectify it as soon as possible. So you see the minister and the JAM boss looking at the screen.
And it's quite telling beyond, you know, this the improvement in technology. It's quite revealing, you know, and it's instructive as well for students who would be writing JAM in the coming year. This goes to show that wherever you are, this technology provides the JAM authorities the ability to see what is happening real time in your center and your CBT center. And so you must refrain or shun exam malpractice completely. But there's another point to be made. Kade, you were saying something quite instructive yesterday, that the cutoff is somewhere around 200, and really...
Well, the average is 200, but sometimes JAM sets cutoff for universities at 140,
lower, yeah.
Polytechs is maybe lower 90, and the rest, yeah.
And, you said something about, even if you score below 200, you shouldn't feel... any form of low self-esteem.
If it is established
because
that
there are people
the technology
who have
did not
scored
fail
above and they're not doing better than those who have scored below. And then that story came through yesterday about that young person who committed suicide because they scored 190, and it was very heartbreaking for me, because that is a very bright mind that has just ended it all. And you never get a permanent solution to a temporary problem. We say time and again about issues of mental health, and we hope that this does not reoccur.
I wish you can hear what they're saying on this video. Maybe?
Yes, they are the waiting. These are the ones coming in, and these people are screening them. If they give them something or they do something, we will see from here. This Adamawa, Adamawa is here. Where is it? Zoom. The large, this one. No, you're on the wrong, this one.
Right, so JAM, let us know what went up or went down with that examination, and let's do it transparently. But let's take you to a very emotional moment that Professor Wole Soyinka, our Nobel laureate, had. He gets a lot of standing ovations, I should say. He gets a lot of attentions, but this was quite emotional for the Nobel laureate, because the Oni of Ife ordered a continuous standing ovation for this living legend at the World Orisha Congress press briefing in Lagos.
So fulfilled today. Professor Wole Soyinka, I want to say thank you to you specifically for all the work you've been doing. Your legacy will continue to speak for you. On behalf of all of us, please can you let us honor him by giving him a standing ovation and keep clapping for him. Keep clapping for this iconic. You will not stop, please. Let us appreciate him for all his support, for all his relentless efforts so far. Clap. If you don't clap there, I will get angry. Let us honor him. Let us celebrate him. He doesn't like to be celebrated.
So there you go. Wasn't quite there, but I imagine that it must have been an emotional one for him, definitely. But that's not all, really, guys. There's a group of students rather, who waving, displaying Nigeria's flag in a zero-gravity plane while working on a toy that they replicated, originally created by Nigerian students. So, yeah, Nigeria to the world, or to the space.
That's Nigerian flag then, zero gravity, not in the hands of Nigerians, but in the hands of foreigners. Yeah.
So let's get to that video of the INEC chairman some days ago talking about electoral reform. But maybe we'll move from there to which one do we go now? Nigerian filmmaker Akindele named as one of Hollywood's reporters' most influential women in international film. So we got a couple of things.
There's one more, Jeffrey. Police deny viral video of helicopter supplying weapons to bandits in Kogi State. If that's ready, we can have that one as well. Looks like there's no sound, but there's a very busy video there. Let's go to the next one. This time around,
Police are apparently denying that video, but there's been a back and forth. I think there has to be a consistency from the mouths of our security agencies. I think sometimes they are not coordinated in that sense. We appreciate the work they do. I remember I keep referring to Buba, who was the spokesperson of the army, acknowledging that drones are actually used by the bandit, but it's not so sophisticated that anybody should worry about. And then a few months later, we're hearing they don't use drones. So which one should we take? What is this management of information that is not well put together? It doesn't make sense. If they are using drones, they are using drones.
but they emerged on the floor of the Senate yesterday, and that
So
informed the instruction by the Senate leadership that the architecture should be improved and the armed forces should be better equipped.
Yeah, so I am just saying there's no point denying what is obvious. It's now that's why I keep shouting brutal honesty. Until we're brutally honest, we're not going to go anywhere in this country. So if they're using drones, they're using drones. How sophisticated those drones are is a different kettle of fish. But we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation for the day. Join us again. All right, welcome back. Let's talk about democracy. Let's talk about accountability. Let's talk about the states of our nation. And we're being joined on the program by the public affairs analyst, Mr. Bosun Fasolu, and also the director of programs, Yega Africa, Cynthia Mbamalu. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, Cynthia, let me start with you on this issue of accountability. In that sense, let's call it accountability crisis, because when we speak to a lot of people, whether it's policymakers or experts in that sense, one of the things people have always said, I'm happy you're also a lawyer, is that legislation is not in short supply. In fact, we're even enacting more acts of the National Assembly. We're trying to amend the Constitution. The detail is in the implementation. And now when people run foul of the law, accountability becomes a problem in that sense, to be able to say, you missed it, you messed up, you should be accountable for your bad behavior. I want you to speak broadly to the culture of accountability in Nigeria at the top level and among citizens.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad you used the term, the culture of accountability. And because at the foundational challenge of the major accountability crisis we have in Nigeria is the culture of impunity. And I say the culture of impunity because it's not just something that is within the government quarters alone. It is a culture within even we, the people of Nigeria. And so let's think about how every individual, the way we interact with each other, there is always that tendency for us to either want to take advantage of a situation, to put someone at a disadvantage and put ourselves at an advantage. There is also how we interact with institutions, with government properties. A lot of times you go to public institutions, you can see how the facilities, how the equipment are in a really bad state. And it's not because some of those things are low quality. It's mostly because the way we even deal with those materials are just very, you can't even explain. We treat them with so much laxity, lack of interest, lack of dedication to keep things and sustain things. So there is that culture where at every level of the society, we have a major gap of holding each other accountable. We have a major gap when it comes to individual accountability. So there is that at that level. But now let's look at the government institution, because at the end, you talked about the fact we have legislations and laws. Society is tailored based on how the leadership directs and drives the society. And so if at the level of leadership, there is a culture of impunity, it just makes it easier for the society to also imbibe that culture of impunity. So what have we seen over time? If you think about our institutions of government, let's start at the federal level. If we think about the National Assembly, I always begin with the National Assembly because We are in a democracy. And for me, the National Assembly, the legislative arm of government, so not just the national, even the state assembly, that is the hub of our democracy. That is the institution specifically designed to represent the people, to ensure that the excesses of the executive is checkmated, to ensure that that's by ensuring that there's proper oversight, and to ensure that we have the laws that we need to regulate us. But what we've seen over this 26 years of democracy, because we're turning 26 years this year, is that we still have a National Assembly that is yet to assert its position as an autonomous arm of government designed to hold the executive accountable, designed to ensure that there's proper oversight within the agencies of government, so the ministries, departments, and agencies, because that is the arm that oversights the executive arm of government. And so if you think about the fact that consistently we're yet to have an independent and autonomous arm of government that asserts itself in ensuring that accountability is a major requirement from the executive. And so that is a big problem. That is what we need to deal with, because if you have an arm of government, that the National Assembly, that is speaking truth to power, that is ensuring the executive delivers on its mandate, it makes it easier for the people to have a tool to use in demanding accountability. So that is one. The second is our federal agencies. Unfortunately, our history of military dictatorship has created a culture within our public institution that has remained a bit more dictatorial than democratic. And so what you have is public institutions that ordinarily do not believe that they owe any citizen answers. They don't believe they owe us accountability. And so they carry on the way they please. So if you get into any public institution and you make demand for information, there is almost the tendency that 9 out of 10 of these chances, they would say no to the information that you want, or they will make a demand before they give you the information. And so if you think about the culture of the accountability crisis, like I said, it's enabled by a culture of impunity, but on a bigger scale is a question around weak institutions or institutions yet to assert their positions as oversight institutions, especially the National Assembly, and then the public institutions that believe that they do not owe us any information. And so when it comes to demanding information from those institutions, they are almost never willing to provide information that you need. And so we cannot achieve accountability if we do not have a responsive system.
Yeah, you've made a sticking point, and repeatedly also, about the National Assembly as it has to do with accountability. And that speaks to checks and balances, which is at the heart of any democracy, really. And that's the point that I'd like to follow up on. You know, Jeffrey was making a point earlier on about the party distribution that we now have at the National Assembly following these gale of defections that we have witnessed in the last month or so. We now have 68 APC senators. We have 30 PDP senators. And then all the other smaller parties are distributed either with 5, 1, I think 1 APGA senator. What does this mean for policies and legislations that may scale through and require the assent of the executive? And this is a period that we're talking about very critical electoral reforms that Nigerian youths are hoping will scale through ahead of the 2027 general elections. I'm bringing this to you, Mr. Fashilu, this time around. Mr. Fashilu, that's for you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much for that question. Of course, the defections, to the ruling party, to me, I don't see this as a major challenge. What I feel is more challenging is the integrity of those who are defecting to the various parties. As long as we are together and we are doing the right thing, I think it should not matter whether you are in the ruling party or you are in the opposition party. The defection has been a little unsettling to so many people. And like I said earlier on, I don't see these as a threat to our democracy. As long as we identify integrity as what is necessary for us to ensure that the various budgetary items which we've shared with Nigerians are sincerely implemented. Thank you so much.
Mr. Fashil, I'm not just talking about defections. I'm talking about the party distribution. We now have more APC senators. What does this mean for policies and legislations that may require executive assent, particularly with the concern that the National Assembly is not as independent as we require it to be?
Thank you so much. The independence of the National Assembly, to me, is also what we should, be concerned about. I want to also believe that the National Assembly, as it is today, though the APC has a majority of, the members, like I said earlier on, if the members consider their integrity as very important, and of course, also understand that Nigerians are watching them, Nigerians are waiting for them to deliver on the dividends of democracy. It does not matter whether you are in APC, whether you are in APGA, whether you are in PDP, as long as you're doing the right thing. And then, of course, it is also very important for us to ensure that the various civic organizations who are doing their work, who are, drawing attention to errors at the National Assembly, should continue to do this. And once Nigerians are up and doing, once Nigerians are making necessary comments, once they are dedicated to examining the policies, and of course ensuring that these policies are well analyzed, I think this will put members of the National Assembly on their toe, and it will be difficult for very wrong decisions to be taken.
Well, let me take this back to Cynthia, and this touches on really all the aspects of our lives as a nation. We can talk about security and how there needs to be better transparency. It's almost like transparency keeps getting elusive. The closer we get to it, the farther it becomes, right? So we've seen attacks now. We saw one last week in Goza, this week in Marte, for example, on military men and women. The latest, we had too much casualty. That's for Cynthia. By the way. And now we could talk about the politics of things, the National Assembly as well, how you always ask, is this the will of the people in that sense, some of the defections that we've seen? One of the front pages has KB lawmakers defecting wholesale, dozen price, as they say. So is it really a system thing in that sense? Is it something that we have now been conditioned to accept? That, well, if they don't tell us, we're fine. If we don't know the truth, we're fine. We wait every 4 years, elect, rinse, and repeat. If anything will change, where will it start from? And I ask this deliberately. Will it start from a legislation? Would it start from a mindset? Would it start from government acknowledging and say, okay, we want to change now? Where will the change start from for you?
For me, I think it begins with the mindset. And I need to just state clearly that our democracy currently is in a dire situation, where we are in a state where a lot of, I don't know if anyone exercises or if you have any level of fear at the state of our politics currently. These defections, for me, it just raises a bigger question on the lack of political ideology. I just see a lot of these defections are just political rascality, if I'm being honest. Because when you have people elected on a particular party platform or party ticket, your voters elected you based on your candidacy on a particular platform. You get into office, and then midway, you're moving to another party. That in itself is a bigger question on how political parties, number one, are structured. Number two, on how politicians, how our political leaders see their roles in building a stable democracy. And number three, on the bigger question on values and principles. And it's only, see, this is a culture you see in Nigeria. So when you talk about the Senate, for instance, you now have about 68 senators. It's different if you had a party that these members won from the election, 68 members. This is midway, midterm into an administration you're having this defection. It's a bigger, honestly, I think this is a height of irresponsibility, and we need to begin to ask questions, to hold our leaders accountable. If you're elected on this platform, you need to remain there. You need to tell us that you believe in the party's ideology that you ran on the platform, because it just means you stand for nothing. And you say when people stand for nothing, then they could go for anything, and that in itself is a bigger question. So when I connect it to the state of poverty, the state of insecurity, and then you ask about where is the problem? Is it about legislation? Is it about our mindset? For me, first is the mindset. We need to first accept that we truly want to be a democracy. If you do not have a mindset that is driven by democratic principles and values, you would not have a culture that is inspired by democratic principles and values. And so the mindset is key. The second around mindset is our mindset of accountability, to say that people are elected to respond to specific needs. For those who elected me, am I accountable to them? Am I reaching out and engaging them consistently? Am I speaking for them? Because if you don't have the mindset of service, if you don't have the mindset of true leadership, it's going to be difficult for you to even believe that you owe your people some measure of accountability. So that's one. But I'm also big on legislation. As a lawyer, I believe that the law is a tool of social engineering. With the law, it creates some level of legal mandate on how things ought to be organized. And so I know there are proposals already around electoral reform. There's actually a proposal to amend the constitution around cross-carpeting, because if you think about the sections limiting cross-carpeting, it makes a proviso, or has a proviso, that creates some level of discretion on determining, because one of the proviso is provided that there is no internal crisis within the party. So when you talk about crisis, every political party in Nigeria has major crisis. The APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, they have their internal issues. And so it just makes it easy for people to say, oh, because there is internal, we have a ground to move to another party. So I think we need to strengthen that legislation, that particular section, to make it difficult for people to win election on one platform and then midway move to another platform. It just shows me you don't even know what you stand for. That, for me, in itself raises a bigger question on your leadership capacity and competency. And so that's one. The second part on it is, how do we ensure leadership is responding to our needs? The level of insecurity in Nigeria is not because we do not know what the solutions are. It's just because consistently we've elected people who are not willing to tackle this front on, and to call the institutions that have the responsibility to provide security to order. Every year, our security budget increases. I think 2025 budget, it had increased to almost 13% of the budget. Every year, we have an increase in the budget to security, but it has not changed our state of security in Nigeria. And so for me, the bigger question is, for our lawmakers in National Assembly, how are you ensuring that the budget for each year, when it comes to implementation, that your oversight is asking, this was the budget for this. Can we see what was purchased for this? Can we see what the procurement process was for this? How are the officers treated? What is your deployment plan? Why is intelligence failing us? Those questions are important, and we need to see our lawmakers on their toes working until we have some measure of control over their state of insecurity. Every geopolitical zone in Nigeria, from southeast, south, southwest, northwest, north central, northeast, has a major security challenge. And every year there is an increase in the budget. But who is asking the question? So for me, we need the legislation, but we need the mindset change.
Let's take it to Mr. Bosun. Mr. Bosun, we need your intervention as well, just like Cynthia said. So for some of us, we've thrown out the idea of ideologies for political parties. It doesn't exist. They have admitted to that as well. So it's not even a conversation. They may have their own personal ideology, but as a platform, I think it's one governor that was saying, what's the difference between the APC and the PDP? We've had conversations with them. We realize that, well, these are just political platforms to pursue their interests. So ideology is almost like we are just being ambitious at the end of the day. So I empathize with everybody like me who expects them to have ideology as political platforms, because you can't just move if you have those ideologies. But one of the things I want you to speak to, when it comes to accountability, which is a big elephant in the room we may not have spoken to, is the issue of godfatherism. Because most of the time it looks like elected officials are more accountable to the people that bring them into office than even the people that elected them. So look at what is playing out in Rivers State. Look at what is playing out in Benue State. Look at what has played out in Lagos State before the president became president and still president, before he became president. Is being influential in making who becomes the governor of Lagos. I can go from state to state where godfatherism is a big deal. And as long as that exists at the level we practice it, it's going to be difficult for these officials to be accountable to the people. How do we navigate that part? The military had to create 2 political parties and told them, join any you like. But now we're not in a military administration, it's a democracy. Mr. Bosu?
Well, thank you once again for that question. For me, I think values as a society matters. Of course, as long as we see, as long as we play politics of money, politics of, ego, and then, of course, it becomes difficult for anybody who is contesting, a political position to actually win, based on his integrity. The society also has a role to play. Like Cynthia said earlier on, the mindset of everyone, during election, most people during election is what they want to get, from those who are contesting. And as long as you're mortgaging your future, as long as you're getting, rewards, for your loyalty, it becomes a little difficult for us to ensure that we put people who are completely responsible, who can fight our cause, in spite of all the odds. It becomes a little difficult, for us to have such people there. And so the nature of our society where we celebrate, money, makes it difficult for anybody, with integrity, but without that financial capacity to contest an election. It becomes very difficult. And so you look up to somebody who has been, who has been in the game, who has the structure. You remember, in the last election, we referred to a political, one of the presidential candidates. We said he did not have the required structure. And of course, you saw how difficult it was, for that political party and for that particular, presidential candidate to also, coordinate well, even though they tried. And so it's more difficult. As a society, we have to take responsibility and know that when we don't ask for money, when we don't demand for money, from those who are seeking, positions politically, we preserve our integrity, and it becomes, it's easier for us to also hold them accountable, to ask questions and take decisions, not based, on the fact that we've been giving money, but based on the fact that we sincerely voted for them. And when they are not doing what we require, when they are not doing what we desire, we will vote them out. And so that's very important. And like I said, it makes it a little difficult for us to separate godfatherism from sincere, politics, because they have the money, they have the resources, they have the people, they understand, most of the difficult, situations. They have the strategies because of the, huge amount of money they have. And then, of course, you refer to some of the cases we've had recently. See what is happening in Rivers, for instance. It's happened in Edo. Of course, it's happening, in some other states. And so it becomes very, very difficult because the godfathers have become so powerful. You remember the case of Ngige, when he was governor. The godfathers have become so powerful that they can make governance difficult for you because they have the money, they have the resources, they have the structure, they have the people. They know who to contact. They can create problems for you. And so we as a society, our mindset is very important. We have to take back our power. Once we are not able, because I always see this from the perspective of the people. It is going to be difficult for any good society. I mean, wonderful followers it's going to be difficult for a bad leader to survive in the midst of, good followership. It's going to be very difficult. So once we make up our mind and ensure that we play politics with integrity, we play politics, sincerely without expecting gratification from the politicians, then we have taken back our power. And then, of course, we will begin to disconnect ourselves gradually from the politics of godfatherism. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So, Cynthia, on a final note, and I want to end with your constituency, right? The chairman of INEC recently said, well, I'm still here. I have not gone anywhere, well, as this tenure winds down, though. And he promised a lot of electoral reforms. Now, we're midway to 2027. Some say it's maybe late in the day. But what are your expectations, really? And what is maybe one law that you expect, or one amendment or reform that must be passed if we want to solve some of these challenges, some of these issues as we wind down? Cynthia, if we can do that in 1 minute now.
One, I do believe it's not just in the INEC chairman's power, it's about the National Assembly.
Yeah.
We need them to hasten that process. We need to strengthen the provisions around electronic transmission of results, just so that we have that independent system that enables oversight of the results process. But we also need early voting for those that work on elections day, and diaspora voting for citizens outside Nigeria. And I think my last message is to Nigerians. Honestly, the power lies within us. The Constitution says sovereignty lies with the people through whom governmental powers are exercised. We have the Freedom of Information Act that we can use as a tool to make demands. But we also need to ensure that when it comes to elections, we're voting based on the issues and we are engaging the process differently and turning out in our numbers. At the end, our vigilance as a people is what would keep the system working. If we're not making demands and asking the right questions, we're going to have a system that no longer responds to our needs and basically just act as they wish to act. And at the end, like I said, it's honestly about how Nigerians are willing and able to work together to make the right demands on the system.
Cynthia, quite an informative conversation in that sense. And we hope that the government agencies themselves understand that FOI is mandatory for them to respond to, just like you've alluded to at the beginning. Bosun Fasul is a public affairs analyst. Cynthia Mbamalu is the director of programs at Yaga Africa. Thank you so much for bringing your insights to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll move on to another leg of the conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And so we move from accountability to our Innovator Breakfast segment. And on this segment, we always celebrate the success stories of women in different fields, particularly in tech. And we have one of such success stories and the mastermind on this segment. She's right here in our Lagos studio. Let's welcome Sholakwe Akinpelu, CEO, Hervest. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So let's start this way. Time and again, we hear about women and their concerns about access to finance, about lack of inclusion in that space. All of the venture capital goes to businesses owned by the men. But here you are the CEO of Hervest. Let's start with your success story.
Well, thank you so much. I'll say it's an unfolding success story.
I like that.
Right. It's a journey, not a destination. So Hervest our mission is improving women's lives by giving them greater access to and then use of financial services, because you can have access and not exactly be included or know how much you can do with that access. And I'll say that, Hervest too is also battling the issues it's solving for. You had mentioned that when you mentioned venture capital. We know that startups, thrive on inflow of capital, particularly at early stage funding. But with Global Fund going to less than 2% of women, Africa inclusive, and then I'm sure that if we extrapolate data, it might even be worse for the continent. You can imagine the struggles that we have to even solve for women who need maybe debt and other forms of capital. But I would say that what has, taken us this far, year 4 now, is leveraging community, leveraging partnerships, and leveraging technology especially. Community, especially because we have a community of women, over 70,000 users of Harvest now, and every day we bring up conversations, insightful conversations around to create advocacy. And I think for the longest, that was the case before Harvest came. We just create advocacy. Women are not getting the money. Let's sign this petition. Why are we not getting the money? But then Harvest is a classic story of insight leading to actions to say, we have to move this further, put tools in the hands of women, and also actually deploy capital, which we've done. We've done over $2 million in transactions in the last 4 years. Might sound impressive, but to me, there's still a lot. We're still just scratching the surface. Leveraging capital, or let me say relationships or partnerships. Now we have more willing financial institutions who are willing to design, low collateral funds that we then, allocate in terms of debt. At least we can give debt of up to 2 million naira, of up to 10 million naira now, particularly to underfunded women sectors, like women in agriculture, like women in trade, who need that, capital boost. And technology, because we use technology, to allocate this capital. Technology localized and built for women wherever they are, because the slogan is, we're leaving no woman behind. So for the rural woman farmer, for instance, she uses USSD solution which we built, and then, we have a mobile app application where women and allies can download and participate in what we build.
Beautiful. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, what do you find to be the missing link for women-owned businesses in that space? And perhaps I should put it in proper context. Is it the self-imposter syndrome? Is it lack of confidence? Or is it lack of knowledge about what to do, where to go to access the finance?
Thank you. You could actually be on this seat right here because, I would say yes. Imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, and not even knowing where to go. And so in some cases, learned helplessness, right? And those are the roots, issues themselves, where, women have been conditioned, sit pretty, look beautiful, just wait for the man that will save the princess in distress kind of thing, right? And for the ones who want to even make efforts, by the time you get in one no here, another no there, you just want to recoil and, stay soft, like they say, right? So all of that rolled into one. But then realistically, talking about, empirical challenges and evidences, I'll say perceptive risks from financial institutions. Women largely do finance informally. They drive thrift groups. They drive ajo. So it's on the other side. It's informal. It's not documented. We want to apply for a loan for the first time, and as a financial institution, they are asking, how much have you assessed one before? What's your inflow? And everything is documented in a scrappy card somewhere. It just doesn't necessarily, count. And so there's that perceptive risk to say, hey, we are not sure about the capacity, the character or competence of this person to service this facility. And then you get such no's. Also, I'll say patriarchal capitalism that also exploits women. When you combine, we're a patriarchal community, we should actually acknowledge that. Then capitalism thrives on that. So I'll dimension that. An example is a female farmer. Who is like wife number 4, 5, and 5 of them are working on the field, on the farm of their husband. It doesn't count as work or labor. Their labor goes unpaid for. So they do tedious unpaid work at home, cleaning, they go to the farm, they do tedious work that should be paid for. And most of the funds, goes back to
our husbands.
Exactly. So, those are the issues, and they are layered in different ways. And so those are the conversations we have. We let people know what's possible, what the challenges are. We do not stop there. We deploy tools, and then we also leverage capital that we deploy.
So I'm wondering, what do you tell them as a quick icebreaker in that sense? Because you have layered the barriers in that sense. You've done, I know you say you're not impressed with your record, but there's room for improvement. But at least you're above the waters in that sense.
Yes.
So a lot of people are just beneath the surface, but there's potential all over the place. The difficulty is some of these things you've talked about, and even more. So if you were to advise them, even without coming to Harvest to say, I want to access this and that and the other, I want to just find capital one way or the other, and having all of these encumbrances in their faces, how should they start the conversation? Pretty looking face, all looking, want to get the job done. So that is the scenario I'm painting here.
You know, so when I mentioned that not impressed, I said that from a place of appreciation for what we've done, but there is a $42 billion US gender gap in Africa alone. So when you look at that, you know, when you just post, then you know that there's a lot of work to be done. But again, so that the team doesn't say, but Shalak, we break our backs here every day solving for this, right? But what we tell them, the icebreaker is firstly, it's the community we've created, knowing what's possible and the conversations we have. I've seen a lot of business owners, I've been doing this for 15 years. What's the structure looking like? You know, it's almost non-existent. And there are times that when you want the capital, you do not have the right structure to back it or, you know, to pay back in so many cases. So those are the things that we look out for. So we then realize that we turn to pretty much like an investor in your business to like we want to sweat it out with you in capacity building and all of that, which we do for the female farmers. We train them both financial literacy and also good agronomy practices. And for the modern women, we have events. We, you know, have, if you go to Harvest now, Learn.Harvest, it is like a hub where you can literally sit every day and learn a lot. It's like a daily masterclass. And we have events too, physical events. Every year we hold an event called Valley Hub by Harvest, where we have live conversations that create mind shifts for people. We're having one 31st of May at Muzon. That's just about 2 weekends away. And so it is exclusively for community members. And these are where, you know, we, like I said, know what's possible and then go for it, leveraging on the conversations and tools we create.
It's very interesting. I find this conversation ironic because women will say, my money is my money. But your money
Some women.
is our money. And it's a thing we just joke and say.
Yes.
But, you know, it gives that sense that first we acknowledge that, because I don't find a lot of people disagreeing, right? Particularly men.
I disagree.
Particularly men. Maybe for peace sakes, but we acknowledge that women are better managers, right? So a lot of people do not disagree because obviously our money is better in your hands than in my hands in that sense. So a lot of people agree that women are better managers. Women just know how to have a handle on different things at the same time. You're able to multitask. Men sometimes we What's funny? I'm just casting ourselves right here, but it's true.
Thank you for taking a break. I wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. You just stay on one route and you just want to achieve the goal before you then turn your attention. But women have their hands in different pies. But the point I'm trying to make is, it looks like data supports women as better managers in that sense.
That's correct.
But the money somehow doesn't find its way to the women. So is it that the money is discriminatory? Is sexist in that sense and says, no, I don't want to go to women, even though data supports women, even having the money. A lot of men will tell you, my account is in the hands of my wife or a woman. So I just always find it ironic. I don't know how to connect it because the data says one thing, but again, the reality says another thing. What exactly is wrong?
Yes, because something breaks between money and savings, particularly investment for women. So you see women multitasking, you know, doing a lot. However, driving trade, driving consumerism. However, when it gets to investing and making that money work for them, something breaks from lack of financial literacy, from, taking bold steps that take you from 0 to 1. So I'll give you an instance. We fund female farmers. Rural agricultural population, that is in terms of labor in Nigeria, has over 75% of women and 25% of men, yeah? But the women only get access to 10% of capital. and then the men get 90. Such lopsidedness. Why? Because majority of those women are subsistence farmers. They farm 1 plot, 2 plots, take some to the marketplace, feed on the rest. While the men are big time, small industrial farmers. So naturally, the capital will go to them because they are chasing, in a bold and in a bigger way. Right? So something breaks, right there. So, and that's why it's more of a mind shift between men and women. And that's how you can equalize. The money does not exactly hate women, right? Even though there are some systemic challenges too, but what we say is that women should also, firstly, make their money work for them, invest, right? And secondly, take bolder steps that gets more inflow of money towards them. And that now solves for where, in coupled up relationships, for instance, your money becomes your money because whatever you both are making is for the commonwealth of your family, a unit of the society. So it works that way. So we don't just want to be keepers of your money alone, but let's make, because more money has never hurt anybody.
At all.
Yeah.
Well, we need a mindset shift to stop the money from being sexist.
Yes.
If there's anything that I've taken away from this conversation, and that will be that. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you well and many more success stories at Hervest. We've been talking with Sholakwe Akinpelu. She's the CEO, Hervest, and she's right here. She joined us in our Lagos studio. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And there's room for more empowerment, this time for people in far-flung places where they need it. You don't want to miss this conversation. We'll be right back.
Well, let's talk that issue. We'll talk about money, how it concerns women, empowerment, but let's talk about how to empower the whole nation and ensure that we get Nigerians out of poverty and dire humanitarian situation. We're joined by the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Ntawe Yuwata. He's live in our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the program, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you so much.
Your ministry is a very important one. We always say there is no small minister, there's no small ministry, but yours even takes it up a notch. Yes, there's the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Minister of Finance, but you are in charge of humanitarian affairs and poverty reduction. That's like a super ministry on its own. And we just came off this back and forth. Well, I wouldn't call it back and forth, but this debate around whether Nigerians were better off in 1960, the AFDB president speaking to that, and the presidential spokesman saying, well, no, you didn't use the right metrics, don't use GDP per capita. But one thing is clear, right? Nigerians are not as better off in that sense when you look at some of those indices, the purchasing power, what they can afford, the value of the naira, the cost of food items, the cost of rent, cost of power, cost of data, transportation, petrol, almost beyond the reach of the poor Nigerians. So I want to start from poverty reduction, which is also a part of your ministry, and find out just where we're at. Yes. Because the World Bank predicts that there will be more Nigerians in poverty by 2027 when this government will be due for re-election. So where are we, Honorable Minister? And let's speak as objective as we can, which I know can be tough.
Yes. Yes, let me be objective as possible. And, you know, we look at the indices that has to do with poverty, and like I keep on saying, most of these indices, they lie around the state governments and local governments. As a federal government, we're trying to do our intervention as much as possible. When you look at the multi-dimensional poverty indices, access to education, primary education is at local government level, secondary education at the state level. Health, access to health. Primary health is at the local government, secondary health is at the state government. If we look at water and sanitation, they are at the local government and state level. But as a government, that's for multidimensional poverty. But when it comes to empowering people so that they will come out of poverty, that's the role we play heavily. And that's where we come in now. And that's the reason why we look at all the areas that Nigeria needs critical intervention. And one of the areas of critical intervention is food security. And the president said, he directed that all the empowering agencies from the Ministry of Labor, my ministry, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Agri, and several other ministries should focus on key areas that can empower and provide food security and provide also empowerment and livelihood to people of Nigeria. And one of them is the one I'm taking now. We are running a program over the years, and we're starting with phase 1 now that will run from now till December. We'll run training programs. This one will be 3 weeks program that will empower young people in solar energy, that's renewable energy, in agriculture, and automobile. And these are premised on some of the needs of the country. For example, do we need food? Of course, yes, we need food. There are projections that will have food insecurity, premised on several factors. One of the key factors this year is climate change. You recall that Borno State, you recall how Borno was washed, Bauchi was washed, Adama was washed, and several other states around the bank of River Niger and River Benue were washed down to Bayelsa. Most farms were washed and they were not insured. So there are predictions of food shortage in Nigeria, and this is part of the reason why we're working on this training, empowering people, giving them a starter pack so that they can go and start their farming, and they can also farm and improve the food security, also improve their income this year. Secondly, we have energy shortage, and most people want energy to their homes, energy to their industries, energy to their small and nano businesses. And we're training them in renewable energy, solar specific, the installation and deployment. And this is going to be done across the 6 geographical zones of the country. Then we're also doing another third one in automobile. The reason we're taking automobile because of the deepening of technology in the automobile sector. Cars are becoming more automated. The mechanisms we have some years back, most of them cannot even run and maintain the cars that we have now. So we're working with one of the latest cars industry in Nigeria, the GAG Motors in Lagos. They will provide training across the 6 geographical zones for the latest handling of modern cars in terms of maintenance of automobiles. So these are key areas we're taking to ensure that, apart from empowering the people that we're bringing on board, we want to fill the economic gaps that we have in the country. And this is an opportunity not just for the young men alone, but also for us to fill the national workforce gap that we have in the country. And that's what we're doing. So we'll flag off in Lagos tomorrow, but we'll have other training zones in the South-South will be in Delta, the Southeast will be in Enugu, the North-Central will be in Jos, the Northwest will be in Kano, and the Northeast will be in Yola. So all these we'll do and we'll come in for 3 intensive weeks of training. And after the training, we'll give the opportunity of writing exam and empowering them. But that will not be the end of it. We'll also monitor them. We'll work with ITF. ITF has offices across the nation. So we'll give the names of these people who are involved to ensure that they provide support for them, M&E for them. And we'll advise also create cooperatives. They work in cooperatives. Now, this is an opportunity for us to advance them. If you performed after this training, after you create cooperative, if you perform, then we can now graduate into our loan scheme, the JIP program that we give loan for nano business, small and nano businesses. And that will help them to start off and run businesses and fill the economy and allow the youths, the younger people, to participate in the economy. I think that's the core of the program we're doing this week.
Honorable Minister, I'd like us to talk about the poverty reduction component of your ministry. And in relation to that,
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
put it in proper context by speaking specifically to the government's conditional cash transfer scheme. The Ministry of Finance has said that 25 million households have received the 25,000 naira under the scheme. I'm not quite sure over what period now. But the World Bank is saying that.
Let me correct you.
Let me land, sir.
Let me correct you first. It's not 25 million. It's rather 5 million Nigerians, 5 million households, of average of 5 persons per household. When you multiply that 5 million households by the 5 people per household, we've touched roughly about 25 million Nigerians. I think that's the figures.
So 25 million figure is correct. But the World Bank is saying that that scheme has missed its mark, as the real people have not been targeted, with only 37 million Nigerians targeted so far. I'm wondering if the internally displaced persons have been covered under the scheme. That's on the one hand. Even if they have, the scheme may have missed its mark because more people, according to the World Bank, are being thrown into poverty as the day goes by, particularly because of rising costs in foodstuff. So has that scheme not missed its mark with the large portion of people in IDP camps that we have in the country?
I think anybody that read the World Bank report would have gotten the context. What you said may not be completely correct. What the World Bank is saying is that the ministry should reach more people. We've reached only 5 million people who are targeting 15 million households. And they say we should fast-track the process of reaching all the 15 million households. Now, how many households do we have in Nigeria? Nigeria has about 43 million households. And we're targeting 15 out of the 43 million households. And that's roughly over 38% of the households in Nigeria being reached by that, about 40% of the households in Nigeria being reached by that program. And if we can reach roughly about 40% of the household in this program, the World Bank said it's a good number. But they say we should fast-track the process of reaching out to the 15 million households that we want to reach out this year. So far, if we did the first, this is the second quarter, and we have covered about 6 million households already. We are targeting that before the year runs out, or before October, November, we should be able to reach the 50 million household. Why are we delaying why is the process slow? What we've done is that we want to verify all the people on the social register that they claim to be poor. So we are going house to house. We are geotagging all the homes of people that are on the social register. We are verifying, we are giving them verified account numbers. We are giving them verified NIN number. We are giving them verified telephone number. Using simple AI, we can generate data about them across their consumption, across their accounts, across their data, their data from telcos, and that will give us an average information about the income of the people who are selecting and targeting to reach out through the conditional cash transfer. So far, we'll be able to reach out to 6 million people, and we're targeting that we should reach out to the remaining number of people. But we'll deploy across the whole country. All the 36 states, including Abuja, are already involved in this targeting of reaching out to these people, these numbers, because we have 19.7 million people on the social register, 19.7 million households on the social register, covering about 71 million people, and covering over 230 communities across the country. So we are covering all the villages in Nigeria. We are covering all the local governments. We are covering all the people. And what we've done also is that in distributing of this targeting, we are doing 50% on equity. So 50% distributed equal across all the communities in Nigeria. But 50% is distributed based on the poverty rate in the community we're having. So that is the way we've been targeting and reaching out to the people. The World Bank is involved. The World Bank even did a recent research. You can even verify from them. They did the research. And they said the research shows that 96% of the people that we got and we targeted in the distribution that we've done so far is reaching out to the right people. Secondly, they said 96 out of 100% is a very good number for community targeting that we've done. Secondly, they also said in their own, report, which is also the World Bank report, which you can verify also from them, that the program are also doing that people that were targeted before, out of the 5 million people that that we targeted, before they said that they could not afford their businesses, their income, and the rest, but that over 70% of them have shown that that money has helped them to improve their business, to improve their income. Some went into farming, some went into small-scale businesses, some went into nano businesses, because we have financial literacy along with the money we're distributing. So we're not just sharing money alone, but we're also improving and also creating a financial inclusion and creating a new penetration for the fintechs, especially in the rural communities. So what we're doing is not just about distributing money alone, but the penetration, the revolving of money around communities, also helping the fintechs to develop and penetrate into rural communities, and helping also the rural communities to be involved in, because they now have verified telephone numbers, they can also make more calls. So these are part of the economic development we're doing across the country. So it's not just about distributing money.
All right, Minister, so let's take it a bit further. In fact, as a matter of fact, so today I'm going to put a call to my village and to my local government to verify some of these claims you've made about how much you've done in terms of getting across as many villages as possible, because that's where we'll get the facts on the ground. So, and I'll revert on that if we have you again. But one of the things I want to speak to...
Let me ask you, the only way you can verify is that I'll give you the list of people in your community. You give me a community, then I'll give you the list of people in your community, then you call them.
I will.
Because you can't just call anybody at random and say that the person is in the social register. But I can give you the list of people in your community.
Okay.
Then you will not call those people.
I'll get
but
that.
You cannot call a random person on the street and say that you are using that person as a basis for.
Well, I know some of the poor people in my villages, so no problem. I'll get that list from you, and I'll verify with them and speak to authorities within the village and the local government.
With all pleasure.
Okay, fantastic. So, Minister, you have to deal with either nature's wrath or consequence of bad governance as a humanitarian minister. That's exactly what the ministry is all about, because if governance is working, there will not be need for humanitarian affairs, or if maybe nature in that sense. I'm talking about emergencies and all of that. But we've also heard stories around this in itself becoming a source of enterprise, a proliferation of NGOs, especially in the north, renting out hotels for 10 years or renting out apartments for 10 years, because this has become some level of enterprise for them. So some of these people, this should not end. People should always be in a case of chaos and crisis. I don't know what information you have and what is being done in that direction. And in addition to that, I know in your state, Benue State, there has been this killing. In fact, we had a lady here who said she was living in the...
I'm from Plateau.
Yes, you're in Plateau. Okay, I want to reference... I know there were killings. My apologies. There were killings on the Plateau as well. We refer to it as a carnage on the Plateau. But I want to reference something that happened in Benue, that an IDP, a lady that lived in an IDP camp, whose parents at that time was living in an IDP camp, was even complaining that at the IDP camp, even with security persons there, they still get attacked. So I want your intervention on two things. First, the proliferation of NGOs and the the enterprise that comes out from humanitarian issues that we deal with in Nigeria due to insecurity on one hand, and the issue of attack of IDPs in places where IDPs are supposed to be IDPs. It's a camp. It's not a permanent residence in that sense.
Yeah. Now, let me just start with the last one that you asked. If you recall, I was on this station to discuss about the roundtable that we held with all the actors in the development and humanitarian sector of the country. And we did that based on the Renew Hope agenda of the president, which asks us to aggregate all the scarce resources that we have in the country to ensure that we target the right people in reaching out to them who have humanitarian challenges. But before I even come to that, let me just also add this fact that people feel that humanitarian action comes in when there's bad governance. Humanitarian actions, sometimes they are due to shocks that may not be due to bad governance. Climate change is not due to bad governance. It's not, but if you have flood, it's not due to bad governance. If you have, disasters, it's not due to bad governance. So there are several disasters that take place, and sometimes people go into economic mismanagement that also affect them. That's why globally, across all the world, you see people that are into different economic shocks, including the USA. I was in the US last month to visit some of the to launch the the shock support for the World Bank. And we visited some of the issues that even America has. And they have some of the most terrible situations, more than what we have even here, in terms of shocks also. So I think we shouldn't limit shocks to just bad governance. We should limit, which also expand the scope of disasters. But let me just add this: the roundtable has discussed to form a humanitarian council. The humanitarian council would deal with most of the issues that I talk about, the proliferation of NGOs that are involved in humanitarian actions. Hopefully, when we tidy up the paperwork on that, which we are working with the United Nations, the INGOs, the CSO, the state governments, and also the federal government, and all the agencies that are involved, and all the actors that are involved in both development and humanitarian activities, then we can now come up with the humanitarian council. And that would decide decisively on some of these actions and make policy statements on it. And once that is done, then we may improve on the quality of services that we provide by the NGOs. Then secondly, on the IDPs, I was in INEC and I worked with the IDPs, especially when I was in INEC. I was involved in working on the election in the IDP of displaced persons. But one of the critical factors that you talk about in the IDPs is the issue of security. For now, there's no data before me that I know of an IDP camp that was attacked, because the data are before the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and the IDPs. And there's no data as of last month that was brought to me that has an IDP camp that was attacked. No IDP camp for now that I have data of that has been attacked. All the IDP camps that we have, they have security around them, and they have data. And there's data by both my ministry and also the Office of the Vice President under NEMA. And there's no IDP for now, IDP camp for now that has been attacked. If a community that is maybe close to an IDP camp, also there are sometimes that some people are displaced and they stay in people's homes. That's not an IDP camp. For IDP camps, none for now is attacked.
Okay, so you're saying that, because let's contextualize the duration you're talking about, because as of January, early in the year, we still had reports. Yes. So are you saying that from that period till now, or you're saying in the past 1 week, please contextualize the data, or at least the report you're giving us? No, for last month, because every month I get a report. For last month, okay. Of what's happening in all the, all the ITP camps. They give me a review. All right. Of all what has happened in all the ITP camps, because it's an agency. All right. So I have an oversight over the agency. All right. So let's also speak to the general humanitarian situation as well. You announced recently the UN Humanitarian Agency leaving Nigeria, yes. Plans to leave Nigeria because of budget cuts and all of that. So it's scaling back. In the same vein, you have the UN saying that there's the need for about $900 million to support humanitarian efforts just in northeast Nigeria alone. That's not to talk of north central, where you're from, by the way. And then you have the World Bank also making the predictions about more people falling into poverty. So it's a dire situation when you look at all of these things playing together. On the one hand, these bodies are pulling out. We need more money. So all of the weight that was being carried by other, global agencies now falls squarely on the Nigerian government at a time when, for example, the price of crude is falling. So we're not making what we ought to make in terms of the projection. But you get my point here, Honorable Minister. So I wonder, yes. How are you finding a way out of this dire situation? What more is the government doing in the light of these very dire circumstances? Yeah. The government especially is making alternative approach to funding for the people who are affected by these shocks. For example, if you look at the budget of this year, additional 300 billion naira was provided in the health sector, because the support that UN gives mostly in the health sector was cured by the 300 billion naira that was provided for in the budget this year to ensure that the shock is not too visible. Secondly, there's also need for us also reach out to
most of the communities that are within the areas that we are dealing with, especially the displaced communities that we have across the country. So what are we doing new? We are approaching some of the new funding, funding sources. For example, I just returned back from Qatar, where I reached out to most of the people that are within these communities, so that we can tackle most of the issues that are taking place within within these frames. So government, apart from reaching out to other sources of funding from other countries, which other foundations that we have across the globe, we're also working as a government to provide additional funding that can support these people. But in addition also, we're working on durable solutions. Durable solutions that can help people move out of poverty completely. Like we were in Benue, we're working with governments. We have an MOU with the government of Benue, government of Katsina. We're also working with the government of government of Borno. And for all this government, we're asking them, the IDP should form cooperative. The cooperatives will now have 30% the people within the community and 70% people who are displaced are still in the community. These people will now be given support by government, and government will help them to farm. When they farm, 30% of the output will be the food component, while government can buy 70% from them and give them cash components. So they have both cash and food. What the food they will offtake from them will distribute to other IDPs that will not have. But that will help them exit, which means we're creating exit program for the IDPs. And that's a better way of empowerment than all the years we've taken. I've asked the UN and I asked several bodies, I said, for the past almost 15 years, you've been in the Northeast and providing a handout. What is the impact? How many people have exited poverty? How many people that we have in IDP camps? And that's what government is changing strategy by ensuring that apart from just giving them handout, we are going to allow them to farm themselves so that IDPs should feed the IDPs. That's number one. Number two, this program we're having tomorrow, which is the skill set that we're training, is part of the exit plan that we're going to have for the IDPs and the empowerment program. Most of the people, even the IDPs, are also be selected as part of the people that are coming in for this training. These are part of the empowerment program we're going to do this year by helping most of them to exit out of poverty and exit out of the camp rather than being in the camp. So we want to get a durable solution for them. We're also having housing units we're building for them so they can build and they can move out of the IDP camps. In Nasarawa, we've already moved the displaced people out to the IDP camps. We have 100 housing units in Borno. We have 100 housing units in Kano. We have 50 housing units in Katsina. And we have some of the housing that we've already built, and this year we'll commission most of them. These are some of the programs we're doing to ensure that instead of working on handout, we're providing durable and permanent solution and exiting most of these people out of poverty. And that's the only way we can actually help to reduce these numbers. But let me just add these numbers also. When we look at the numbers that, like the health sector, out of the numbers of over $900 million that was said to be given in the health sector, the real numbers that comes to the people on ground is roughly about $300 million. And that's what government has secured by the budget we've done. So the same thing also in the humanitarian sector. So we hope that little money we have as a government will do far better than the so much money that comes from overseas, that has a lot of management fund, it has a lot of M&E, it has a lot of bringing of consultants and bringing of people from outside, which ends up consuming most of the money, not going directly to people that are beneficiaries. So these are some of the programs and targeting we are doing to ensure that we improve the quality and service that we're giving to displaced people and reducing poverty among displaced people, and also moving and exiting them out of the IDP camp, out of poverty at the same time.
Well, Honorable Minister, we have to wind down at least on this interview. There is a lot more to talk about. Okay. And people always refer to what the president said about letting the poor breathe. And they're saying, well, the poor is not breathing well. So for you, on your own dashboard, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well would you say the poor is breathing in Nigeria now?
So far with the numbers we're doing, if we do all these numbers, because we have budget for it already, like for the 50 million household we're targeting, all of them we have funding for them. The funding is available. It's also in the banks already. The government has separated that money and kept for us in central bank. So all we need to do is that as we're all doing the registration, we're actually offloading these people, which means that we're targeting 50 million households. Multiplied by roughly between 4 and 5. If you multiply even by 4, it means we're targeting roughly about 60 million people that will benefit from.
Honorable Minister, so on a scale of 1 to 10,
conditional cash transfer.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
On scale, if all these factors are taken care of, we should do between 70 to 80% in terms of scale of 1 to 10.
That is very, very generous, but of course I wouldn't expect anything less. But the people know where the shoe pinches, and we'll get an update in the coming days. We have to thank you so much, Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Ntawa Yuwata, for your time on the program. Well, we'll take a quick break now. When we return, we speak with some wonderful Nigerians doing some great stuff. This will definitely inspire you, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk to two content creators. They are twin. Fantastic. So if you love a bit of, I don't want to use that word, but I would like them to do it themselves. So these two incredible people, they remind you, if you've ever watched the movie Bridgerton or the series Bridgerton, that's what they remind you of. But they have this dimension or this approach to it where they use biblical representation to do their, to display their artistry in that sense. So without further ado, let's bring them in. Victor Eke, comedian, content creator, as well as Prevailer Eke, comedian, also content creator, but they are known by the name Britishtwinz. They are joining us from Owerri capital. I'm so excited to see both of you. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay, so let's begin with, so you can sound like Nigerian, first of all. Are we correct?
Affirmative, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
So you were born and bred in Owerri. So I want to put all the data out there. Tell us, where were you born? Where were you raised in?
Well, we were born in an island called Bonny Island in River State. So we were born and brought up in Owerri, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Bonny Island is in River State. Fantastic. So tell us how you got into all of this, because a lot of people watch your stuff. I've watched Bridgerton, the entire series. I'm waiting for them to bring even other sequel to Bridgerton. And I saw your content, I was like, wow, this is really, really impressive. Walk us through your journey.
Okay, so right from when we were in nursery school, so always had this passion for the British accent and the British culture and everything. So we have been, rehearsing with it, watching so much of British shows,
entertainment,
yes, entertainment, things like that.
It took us years of practice and continuation, doing stuff like that, talking, communicating.
Yeah.
Just basically everything we do.
Yeah.
We infuse it in our daily lives.
Yeah.
That's how we gain the proficiency in the British accent.
Yeah.
I can see you're literally struggling to get in and out of character in that sense. So, and I see that both of you, who is the better talker here? Who is influencing who?
Okay, so I'm going to spill it out there. My brother, Victor, he's very much of a talker. He's very much of a talker. I used to be the introverted one growing up, but he brought out
I had to lure her out of it because
he's a bad influence.
Yes.
He gossips a lot.
No, I'm a good influence. Please.
Yes, he's a good influence.
I can see that you both bring out the best in each other. I've watched your content and I'm fascinated by the uninterrupted flow of the gossip. So my first question to you is, who does all of that scripting? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, the thing is that there's actually no script.
Actually no script.
there's no script.
There's no script.
You know,
The thing
when
is-
you've been with somebody all your life,
Yeah.
it looks like you can tell what they're about to say next.
Yes.
So you get it.
So by default, we just know what each
What-
other's group like
exactly.
what we're going to say next.
Mm.
And for me, I think it's more of our daily life.
Yeah.
It's more of our daily life.
Exactly.
Like we do not gossip as our daily life.
No, we don't gossip as our
We just
Yes, we're just experts in spreading important information.
yes.
Brilliant. And so there's also a huge gospel content in a lot of your content, and that's also impressive. So what informed that, part of the message that you put out?
In this recent times, in this generation rather, in this age and time, we found the need to put out more gospel content out there because we're Christians, and so far our journey has been God-given, God-inspired, and God's really seen us through up until this moment. So we just wanted to let the world know that we're Christians and we are proud of our faith.
And then again, since we've noticed that because we're trying to catch them young for Jesus, just as we are, so we've noticed that when it comes to studying the gospel Bible, I will not lie, it's kind of boring sometimes.
Yeah.
So we had to mechanize way to put it out there that draws their interest and attention to engage. So that's just how it is.
Let me just say that when you guys are in Lagos, you have to come to the studio. We need to have a proper sit down and just scatter this studio as it is in that sense. But I know that you guys have your academics going on for you as well. By the way, we'll still settle down and just allow you guys to do your banter, because I think it is really beautiful to watch, right? But I just want to talk about, your other life pursuits, academics, work, and, the viability of what you're doing as well. I know you put up a post in April about your IT defense at the Federal Polytechnic Nikeda. So speak to us about your academics and the viability of what you're doing.
Currently, I'm a final year student at the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, where I'm currently studying biomedical engineering in the Faculty of Engineering and Engineering Technology. So it's not been easy trying to balance academics and content creation.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm also into fashion, because I'm very enthusiastic about fashion.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been easy doing that, but with God, all things are possible. And striving to make good grades as well. I prioritize my education, of course. So sometimes we do take breaks, especially when we are having serious school or academic work.
Okay.
So we do take breaks.
So, and I'm also currently a student of the Federal Polytechnic Nikeda, studying mass communication under the School of Information Communication Technology. So just like my sister said, it has been quite a journey. It has been quite a journey balancing education and then content creating. But we just thank God that we have that He supplied us the strength to do so, because definitely it has just been Him all through, balancing education and then content creation
and work as well.
then work as well, because we are also fashion designers. So,
yes.
That's just beautiful. You're just, you represent the Nigerian spirit, really. Multifaceted, multi-skilled. That's beautiful. Welcome back from the Met Galilee. I know while others went to the Met Gala, you guys went to Met Galilee. So we just want to listen to you banter. I know I've spoken to twins who say they can't imagine what it is like not having a twin. So they always pity the rest of us that, how do you guys survive? You don't have a twin? Come on, life must be boring for you. So I don't know what your next content is about, but I want you guys to give us a sneak peek. Just do your banter, because I think you guys provide a breath of fresh air with what you do.
Okay, so we're going to walk you through it. Victor,
yes.
have you heard? I heard today is quite a very very important day at the Federal University of Technology you're wearing?
Important day at the Federal University of Technology you're wearing?
Yes. You know, the students are having their examination today, especially the final years. They've been reading all through. It's been a whole lot trying to balance, coming online, posting memes and engaging with your friends, and also going back to the boring life of reading. Nigerians do not like to read.
You know, the funny thing is that who actually reads these days? You just go slam through the books and then you write whatever comes into your brain.
So then there's ChatGPT. It does everything for them.
You have to give recognition.
Okay.
Thank God in ChatGPT for my certificate.
All right, fantastic work.
ChatGPT.
Oh, boy.
Get there. When are you guys coming to Lagos?
I think they have to come to Lagos.
When are you coming to Lagos?
So they'll get full value for what you do. So when will you come to Lagos? We have to bring you to Lagos somehow.
When are you guys coming to Lagos?
And somehow we have to, come on that bird that flies.
I think it's called an aeroplane.
I think it's called an aeroplane.
An airplane.
Look at these people.
Okay, welcome back from.
When are you coming to Lagos, guys?
But we're going to keep in touch with both of you to ensure you come to Lagos, because that's when we'll get the full value of what you do. It's quite incredible. It's just as Skyler said, breath of fresh air watching you gossip in a Bible way. I don't know whether that is a good thing to combine in that sense. Okay, Victor AK as well as Rivella AK, comedian content creators. They are known as Britishtwinz. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Owerri, the Imo State capital. Thank you. We'll definitely have you guys physically here to enjoy everything that you do on social media. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So that's it. But a few messages I'm seeing on our email, but literally all of them are the same, talking about us asking the minister who has we're done with that conversation. But let's put it on record. They're asking the minister about NPAR and when their stipends will be paid. So they say there are backlogs or arrears in that sense that has not been paid. So, Honorable Minister, in case you're still watching or your people are watching, the NPAR people are asking questions as to when their monies will be paid. And it will be nice to respond so we can give them this feedback, what your response will be.
Absolutely. I think it just points to the challenge of sustainability as well. Some of these things are started by the previous administration, and then another government comes in. Maybe they try to settle it, but somehow they're still outstanding. So it's important for at least the ones you have promised, the ones you have put in the system, ensure that you fulfill all of the promises made or the obligations, and we can find a way to talk sustainability. So that's very, very important to the minister.
We really do need to get the Honorable Minister back. And another concern is, education for children in the IDP camps. That's another very huge concern. Time and again, when these camps are visited, we just see the children, loitering about. All they do is play, and, the concern of safety as well. So we need the government to develop a program of continuing education for children in the IDP camps to take out that threat of radicalism, particularly for those ones in the north.
Okay, fantastic. That's it for the program. But let me remind Nigerians, it's about maybe 2 weeks or so to May the 29th. So this is my little admonition. Go online, download Renewed Hope Agenda, the manifesto that brought this president into power. It's an 80-page document. Go from page to page, sector to sector, so you can assess whether they are doing what they said they would do or they are failing at it. That's the only way you can actually know whether it's fulfilling his promise or it's failing at his promise. And that's a fair way to look at governance midterm of Bola Tinubu and his team, our president.
And that's not to forget as well, we give a lot of time to the president, rightly so, because he holds most of the powers, but we give some time to the governors.
Yeah.
So find a way to get the manifesto.
For the ones that have manifesto.
Right. The state governors where you're at, even your lawmakers. It's time to sit them down and say, okay, what have you achieved?
How far?
Yeah.
How far? All right, thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Bye-bye.
And don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up next. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kaido Kikelu. Goodbye.